The Golden Age arc is by far the most emphasized and adapted part of Berserk's story, and for good reason. But one problem I have is the fact that in both the movie trilogy and the 97 anime, the captain of the Black Dog Knights, Wyald, is completely erased from these adaptations. Although there is one particular scene involving Wyald which we can all agree shouldn't be shown on the big screen, for him to be completely removed from the Golden Age arc is very unfair towards the story, for several reasons. This will be the first of two videos where I will be explaining the importance of Wyald. In this particular video, I will be analysing why Wyald is unironically a great character, which shows off everything Berserk should be. And in the second video, I will explain the external impact Wyald had towards Guts and the whole story. Let's get started. Even though Wyald isn't a major character in the grand scheme of things, he is one of the most memorable opponents Guts faced up against due to his unique barbarity and his animalistic nature. This was shown right from the first scene he was included in. The very first instance Wyald was mentioned was in the chapter, Flower of the Stone Castle. In the second half of this chapter, Charlotte had returned to the king, and he specifically tells one of the captains to order the Black Dog Knights to annihilate Griffith and the crew. The captain has a look of shock when he hears this, and initially disagrees with it, before being slapped and having his remarks dismissed. He calls the group scum and a disgrace, and goes against referring to them as knights. The final panel of the sequence simply states, "That man called Wyald, there's something strange about him. He's like a beast." This all gives the sense that whoever Wyald is some kind of inhuman monster, and that he is someone a lot of people do not want to resort to. Literally right in the next page, the reader is greeted with these pages. This person, who is most likely Wyald, is fornicating with a group of women. While he receives the notice to pursue Griffith, he strangles and kills one of the gills. The following chapter includes a short scene of the time the king first laid his eyes on Wyald. 5 years ago, due to a shortage of soldiers, the king decided to recruit some criminals to work under the kingdom. Here, Wyald very boldly volunteered to become the leader. After many boos and negativity from the fellow criminals, one man challenges Wyald, Barbo, the armor hacker. The pair agree to take part in a battle, where the winner becomes the boss. Barbo is visibly much bigger, and Wyald doesn't even get his handcuffs removed. He says a very interesting line: "You need some kind of performance to capture the hearts of the troops, to get ruffians like these to obey. Sometimes ordinary incentives won't cut it. Overwhelming power, a sense of charisma is essential." The fight starts, and Barbo charges towards him, but in the blink of an eye, Barbo ends up at the peak of the tower, with the arch pierced through his stomach. Everyone at the scene looks shocked. They are terrified of Wyald and his capabilities. This all ties back to the previous scene, and it proves the captain's point. Wyald isn't some normal member of the Knights. He is this demonic beast, who possesses an animalistic personality, all while being inhumanely powerful. And this barbaric, violent side of him is emphasized over and over again, in almost all of his actions. Later on in the same chapter, after Guts and the crew had received help from these friendly villagers, Wyald catches up to the same village, and questions the people there. Without second thought, Wyald brutally massacres and rapes these innocent villagers. Guts and the crew realize that someone is pursuing them. They see the Black Dog Knights showing off the burned corpses of the previous villagers. These first 3 scenes of Wyald all work together to tease and intimidate the readers for what Guts and the crew are going up against, and the awful fate they could succumb to. At this point in the story, violent and aggressive characters were nothing new. However, what makes Wyald more similar to a character like Zod is the fact that he possesses a brute power to back it all up. His strength was showcased from the first clash between him and Guts. He easily stops Guts' sword with his bare hands, and it gives Guts the same feeling he received when he encountered Zod and Skull Knight. The next unique quality Wyald possesses is his childish behavior. He almost always wears a smile on his terrifying face, and he gets some strange pleasure out of his actions. He also frequently taunts and attempts to intimidate his opponents using a bunch of childlike language. What makes this childish part of him even more terrifying is the fact that it is completely detached from his appearance. From the clothed beard he wears, his ape-like face, even to his large body, everything about Wyald's outset is horrifying, but this is all contrasted against his strange internal state, and it surrounds him with an aura of terror. This childish behavior blends into another quality of Wyald, his unpredictability. When Casca and Judo set the trap on the bridge, blowing it up and completely destroying it, Wyald did not stop. Instead, he continued to aggress forward, even though it caused him to lose a lot of his own men. When one of the Knights members disagrees with Wyald's order to keep following Guts, even through the dangerous main tracks, Wyald sets an example to the rest of the men of what happens when someone retaliates against his words. He crushes this Knight's head in. He says, "If you start talking about living and dying, you end up wasting your life away." He even has this strange motto amongst his men, to enjoy and excite. This four-word motto is so effective in summarizing all of Wyald's actions. Again, he visibly enjoys all the harm he puts on others, and he always tries to showcase it in some way. He takes this unpredictable side of him to an extreme when he is ambushed and attacked by the band. When Wyald's men are all pushed back, eventually leading one of the members to almost give up, Wyald just does something completely unthinkable. He knocks down a large tree, causing it to fall down on his own men. Everyone there can't believe what just happened. He makes another remark about fearing death. "Don't I always tell you? The fun starts now. You've got to think about life positively. That's why you guys can only die in piddly ways." This is when he begins to transform. In my next video, I will be explaining post-transformation Wyald, and the massive effect he had on Guts, and the storyline as a whole. So make sure you are subscribed, and stay tuned for that.